We're all misfits.
All right, you ragtag bunch of misfits.
You're a scrappy little misfit, just like me.
Biggest bunch of misfits I ever set eyes on.
Not a test.
We live.
Good morning, Misfits. You are tuning into another episode of the Misfit Podcast. Full Goon Squad in the house.
What's
Yo.
up?
We have breaking news. You came to this podcast to find out that the Pittsburgh Steelers have finally fired offensive coordinator Matt Canada.
That's where I get my news from.
Yep, Ted, make sure that's the headline of the episode. That's my live chat. He's the worst offensive coordinator ever, but the Steelers don't fire people. We did a little trivia round before we started recording. Chuck Noll started coaching for the Pittsburgh Steelers in 1969. Hunter, how many coaches do you think that they've had since then, including Chuck Noll?
How many head coaches or offensive coordinators?
Head coaches.
Since 1969? Who's the current one? Is it Mike Tomlin still?
Damn, I'm impressed.
You like that? Yeah. You just said they don't fire coaches. So
Yeah,
let's go 3.
Yeah. And they Chuck Noll retired, Bill Cowher
including
retired.
Mike Tomlin. How
Yeah.
long's he been the coach? At least a decade?
Oh, yeah, longer than that. Cowher retired in early 2000s.
Yeah.
So he's
4
been the
or
coach
5,
for,
maybe.
Yeah.
3 coaches and said since
Yeah.
69?
Yep. They don't
Since the
fire
moon
people.
landing.
So for
43,
Matt
50,
Canada to get
50,
fired, you have to
54 years?
yeah.
Moon landing didn't happen, bro.
Jesus Christ.
Oh, yeah.
That's
when
crazy.
It's crazy how I do
Kubrick
my
filmed
math with
the moon
years.
landing.
When somebody says a date in like the 1900s, I just base everything off of 2000. So it's like, 1969 to year 2000 is 31 years. And now we're
Bro,
so deep
2000
into
was almost 25
the
years
21st
ago.
century that I can't really do that anymore. It's like, yeah, then you just got to add 23 to that.
It's going to be dope, though, when you get older and you can say, I was born in the 1900s, bitch. Shut up.
Yeah.
You know nothing.
I feel like you could say that to kids right now.
Probably.
And they still would be like,
Yeah.
what?
I'm going to file that
dirt.
one away for Carter. Listen, I was born in the 1900s. I know what's going on.
Listen,
here.
motherfucker, we weren't even
Old
born in the same
fuck.
century. You shut your mouth when you're talking to me.
You guys know Tommy DeVito,
No.
quarterback for the New York Giants, backup quarterback. I think he was like an undrafted free agent. Still lives
related
with
to
his
Danny
mom
DeVito?
in New Jersey.
It's Dave DeVito's son.
And he's like, why wouldn't I? She's got chicken cutlets. So he's exactly who you think he is. You see the necklace that he wears in the games? It's so perfect that he's the Giants quarterback.
Absolutely.
And he has more games with 2 passing touchdowns in his career than Kenny Pickett, who has been playing for 3 years under Matt Canada and was a first-round draft pick. And Tommy DeVito is like, were like, hey, you like chicken cutlets? Cool. Do you like football too? Why don't you
You
just
said
come over
Tommy
here?
DeVito. I googled Tony DeVito. Tony
Same guy.
DeVito is an American professional wrestler
Yeah, he is.
whose ring
Dropped out of
names
wrestling.
include Bobby DeVito, Macho Libre, and Tony DeVito.
Macho.
I was
Damn.
like, I hope
like
this
that.
guy's the
Sure,
fucking
I feel like you should
quarterback.
adopt that nickname, Macho Libre.
Macho Libre. That's my new
The
nickname.
big, what is
for
that?
sure.
Big Free? What does that mean?
So
Macho Libre?
Libre's a lion, isn't it?
Well,
I
I
think
think
it's
it's
free.
probably just a take
Libre
on
is
Nacho Libre,
free.
is my guess.
Free.
I saw a really good pass by Kenny Pickett this week where he, threw the 30-yard line, and there was literally no one within, 30 yards. I assume that was a receiver going the wrong way, or just
Nah, it's Matt Canada's fault.
miscommunication.
I'm going to stick with that until I
everything's-
see him play, although he wears a glove on his throwing hand. I just,
Pretty dorky.
yeah, I'm not into that
cool, dude.
shit at all.
I mean, Tom
And
Brady
then
used
we
to do
won't
it, but it
stick
was
with
cold.
football for too much longer, but the Chiefs would be undefeated if they could catch a football and Patrick Mahomes didn't get the flu against the Broncos.
Dude, that toss was great last night to Scanlon. He almost had it.
Oh my God. Yeah. If anyone wants to break their heart, watch the YouTube replay of the Chiefs-Eagles game last night.
Dude, how about
Definitely
that?
still the 2 best teams in the NFL, though, I'd say.
How about that almost pick by Jalen Carter on the spike? You see that shit? Where he dove through the center's legs and almost picked up. He's like, I saw that in a high school game and I wanted to try it.
That dude's
So
unfucking real.
they're clocking the ball and he dives through the center's legs with his hands like this and
Tries to
almost
catch it
intercepts
before
it.
it hits
yeah.
the ground.
Yeah. It's fucking great. Such a troll move.
Okay, live chat. What you guys got?
I found out less than 3 days ago that I'm hosting Thanksgiving, which I was telling Ted before the podcast is a blessing in disguise because I don't have to go anywhere. As much as it's not great to have a zillion people in your house, like all times, just because my house is tiny and not great for hosting, it is nice to be not having to travel anywhere with
Are you
two
from
kids.
Baltimore? Did you say hosting?
Hosting?
Joe Flacco.
God,
Is that a Baltimore thing?
Hosting is.
Sounds like San Francisco or British or some shit. I don't know.
No.
Hosting?
That's yeah. You gotta listen to Stavros's alternate ego, Ronnie, the Baltimore Ravens fan.
Did you
He's like,
did you find out 3 days ago, or was that plan made 3 days ago?
So my mother
Noel's
wanted to
known
help.
for weeks.
My mother wanted to have it at her house, and Noelle's like, nah. No. House is small. It'd be a pain. Like, her family couldn't be involved at all. Her parents don't really celebrate Thanksgiving, but they would
They're
get
going to
together
your
with
place?
the kids. So everyone's coming to our house now. So now
What's
it's
everyone?
gone from
How many?
15, which isn't.
Are they
isn't a
spending the
small-
night or just coming over
No.
for dinner?
Everyone's
it'd be
local, thank
amazing if
goodness.
all the people that were local.
Dude, we used to have
It's too far
our
away.
house. My mom's house used to be the Thanksgiving hub. We had on low end like 8 people up to like 12 or 15 family members, and they stayed.
We'll
Got
have
there
10.
Wednesday, left Saturday.
Yeah,
Lot of
We'll have
bodies.
10 people doing that.
My,
A lot of
that's
bodies.
too long.
Too long. A
That's
lot of
way
bodies.
too
A lot of
fucking
cigarettes.
How many cigarettes? Tell me. Tell me how many
Treat.
cigarettes.
How you smoke the turkey with cigarettes?
Yeah, you just blow it.
Yeah,
Right,
that's
the
what
turkey's
we were
opening.
smoking it with. Everybody from
like a
upstate New
turducken.
York, Rochester had their fucking cowboy killers just puffing until
Jenny Lights and
Tony
Siggy's.
the turkey was done.
Was Toby DeVito there?
Oh my god. Macho
Tony
Libre.
DeVito, it's Macho Libre.
Nacho Libre was there? Fuck.
That's what I'm calling the turkey this year.
Yeah, so
All right, Hunter, what you
because
got?
All right, go ahead.
No. You can jump in. You excited?
Let's see.
Yeah, super excited. Go ahead, Hunter. It's not a
Well, golf season is just about as officially done as you can get. We got
get in the simulator.
ropes. I know it's
Sunny out
simulator
there, bro.
season. Simulator season. Although simulators are substantially more expensive than playing outside. So, but
Like how much more?
Just
we
buy
have
a Wii. Play all the games you want.
during it's like 50, like around here, $50 an hour for a simulator. But you can also like obviously split that with people too. So if you go with 2 people, that's cheaper.
How much does a
versus,
simulator
like,
cost?
But it's
Like to buy it.
10 grand? 20?
No, yeah, it depends on the most popular devices are called TrackMan, and that's basically like if you ever watch golf or turn it on, because I can't expect any of you to actually watch golf, but behind the tee box, there's this like it's a square. It almost looks like it's the size of like your laptop screen, basically, and that's what detects things like. It can detect basically like the club coming into the ball, like it that's where all of the technology is.
And that's what
those
drives the
devices are
simulators?
like upwards of 20 grand, just like the TrackMan device. So
but how many swings can you get in an hour though? You don't have to walk anywhere. You don't have to drive in the golf
yeah,
cart.
you
You're
can
not drinking.
yeah, you can
Maybe
you
you
can
are. I don't know.
theoretically get more swings. It's just obviously a little bit different. But the technology in those like ball flight detectors is pretty substantial. So those things, like a nice one will be like 25 grand. It's ridiculous. It's insane.
Looks like you could build a tracker with a Raspberry Pi, so you might be able to do it for like sub $500.
What's a Raspberry Pi?
It's a tiny little single board
yeah.
computer. They're good for like all kinds of things, but you can connect it to a camera and you just do some fancy coding. You could build your own.
Hunter, you got that coding
saying.
in you, bro.
But
it
it
in
is
your blood.
surf. It is winter surf season. So I got myself back into
When do the
surf
waves come
groove
back?
this weekend.
Like now?
So we had a really good September because like basically like the end of hurricane season officially starts I think June 30th.
I thought hurricane season.
Hurricane season.
I was like, is anyone going to say it?
I don't know when it ends technically, but September was really good. We didn't have a whole lot going on in October, and now like winter storm, nor'easters, that sort of thing will start to churn up the Atlantic. But got some surfing in this weekend, which was a good time. Went down to New Hampshire, which is
Where'd you
change
go?
of scenery. It's in like Rye.
Okay. Yeah, I
My
used to
area.
surf when I went to UNH. I used to surf there, and I think Salisbury, Mass is close to there.
Yep. Yeah, pretty close, just over the border.
Like randomly, potentially some of the best waves in Mass that I've ever surfed. And then I like went back to look at the surf report like 10 years later and was like, I just got lucky. The place sucks.
It's been a while. It's been a while since, and it's kind of funny. Anytime there are waves and there haven't been in a while, you like every surfer in New England is surfing. So finding like an uncrowded spot is pretty hard. But
There was no one there. And it was the like Venn diagram of like the 1 week in my life that I finally knew how to surf and there were waves.
Wow, nice.
Yeah. Perfect
tight.
day. Yep.
Yeah, I got lucky. I was one of like 5 guys on a spot that was working pretty good, but there was another kid that was having a bad time and got yelled at. It's funny to watch people get yelled at. Surfers are like, can be some of the least friendly people on the planet. And like, if there haven't been waves for a while and everybody comes out there, surfers are like expecting to get waves, and then some dipshit doesn't know what they're doing.
Hey, I'm just learning.
And
Fuck
that's
you.
even the case in Maine. Because obviously that's
Yes.
like a stereotype
Oh, yeah.
in like California, Hawaii, like
It's
surf
honestly,
places.
I imagine it's better out there because like in California and Hawaii, like there's a base level. Like if you don't surf and you're like you go out there, like if you go out there without the understanding of what's about to happen, like that doesn't happen in those sorts of places. Out here where it's like it's not as big of a sport, like there's all kinds of chuckleheads out
Hunter,
there.
could you teach Sherb how to surf?
He was
He
pretty
tried in
close
Hawaii. He gave me a boogie board and said, "Good luck."
Yeah, Sherb's board selection was
burnt my-
inadequate for
That's all I
his.
had. That's all
He didn't
he
quite
had.
have enough foam under him for that.
Fucking
Yeah,
burnt the shit out of my nipples.
Sherb was
so bad.
Hunter tried to kill me and
Surfing
Cody
sounds
in
fun.
California.
we
Those
did
were
do
some
that.
serious fucking waves.
That was in hindsight, that was not a great day to surf, but we had fun.
I watched Hunter fall off of the top of what looked like a 40-foot high wave over and over and over. He just kept
was
sending
great.
it too. I was like, what
Yeah.
a beast. I feel like
How
I'd get put in the
that was
spin
it.
cycle
That was
a few too many
that was
times.
the learning curve.
Yeah.
I was one of those dildos out in Southern California when I was learning. Although I was smart enough to just not be in the way.
Is there like a novice
wasn't-
beach? Or is that
I
like
was-
beach sucks and no one goes there?
What's that?
Is it like a novice beach and you go there like to learn? Or is that
There are
beach sucks
spots.
and no
There
one
are
goes?
spots that are better known as like, this is
that's
where you should
fucking
go
dildo beach.
to learn to surf. This is where you can get in anybody's way and hit anybody in the head with a soft surfboard,
okay.
and it's okay. So
All right.
those exist.
That's good.
But
That's
that
where I'd
doesn't
go.
That's
exist in Maine because if you went somewhere to get out of the way, the waves wouldn't be big enough to learn how to surf. You'd just be like teetering
a lot of
side
tough
to side.
areas for that. But there are areas that are like, this is very obviously a spot for people who know how to surf.
It's kind of an
Otherwise,
odd
like-
phenomenon too, isn't it? Because like, obviously you think about when humans act the most psychotics, like road rage and shit, but you're like in your car, no one can hear you. The most peaceful place I've ever been in my entire life is on a surfboard out like behind the waves. It's amazing.
Yeah.
And I love that
great.
there's like an aggro element to that, even though it's like the nicest place to be.
It is. It is a weird, like, I've thought about that too, but like it's so easy to, because ultimately waves are commodities. Like there's a finite number of them, and when there are more people than waves, like, demand and what's the supply and demand.
That's business, I think.
Business.
Boom. I have an associate's degree from the Thompson School of Applied Science and Business, so I think
I went to
would know.
MIT Tech. I went to IT.
That's
Tech.
basically where I went. I can't say on this podcast what they called us at UNH, the people that went to Thompson School. It's not
That's a
PC.
shame.
Yep.
Say it, but bleep it out, Ted.
No.
Fuck, you're better off going to community college now anyway. It doesn't even matter. You should be stoked.
Definitely.
I don't even know what it was. It's like a branch of UNH where, I don't know. It would be
Tree
like
branch.
the vocational school of college. That's what I would call it. Something to that effect. Ted, how's Thanksgiving prep going?
Good, right on schedule. I made my cranberry sauce last night, and I made my brine last night, so we're going.
What
So
is
you're
going
brining-
on with that
brining the
cranberry
turkey?
sauce? There's some
brine.
wild shit going on in there.
It's pretty like standard. I think it's just frozen cranberries with a bunch of sugar, some orange zest, orange juice, and then you simmer it for 10-15 minutes.
Is the orange typical and like
Ooh,
is it-
orange. I like that.
I feel like that would make it taste better than the canned shit.
Definitely. So it's like a bit citrus forward because it kind of like undercuts the bitterness of the cranberries.
Cranberries is a bit much.
Yeah, but you put enough sugar in it, and it was like a
Sure.
cup and a half of sugar for 36 ounces of cranberries. So it's nice. I every year when I'm making it, I don't know if I'm making enough because my mother-in-law eats it like it's mashed potatoes. Whoa. Yeah, like just spoonfuls.
That's what people wonder when I come over with the gravy. My dad would always be like,
gonna
"Your
swim in
gravy's
it?"
over there. Okay, don't touch this gravy. Your gravy's over there." I'm like,
He's
"Listen,
outside.
if there's
Swimming in
not
it.
enough gravy, I will steal someone else's gravy."
I do have spare cranberries in the freezer though, just in case.
All right.
Just in case. Backup berries.
Whip a batch up. Whip a batch up real quick.
It doesn't take long.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to get into the topic of the day today. We've a brand new phase starting, teammisfit.com, our affiliate programming. Phase 3 is getting started or has already started. And this just gives us an opportunity to jump in, talk about the type of programming that's going to be in the phase, but more importantly, gives us the chance to talk shop about something that we're super passionate about. And I consider Sherbin Hunter to be, absolutely world class at, and that's coaching at the affiliate level. And I think it's not a shame, but it's kind of funny that, our bread and butter and what we do and what we've been best at over the longest period of time has been executing coaching classes at the affiliate level. And this podcast and a lot of the content that we put out, because we need to, from our office, reach so many people with Misfit Athletics. When it comes to the gym, send Sherbin Hunter out, send their coaching staffs out, and they crush, right? So that's the product that happens in person here. But then it starts to make you think, should we be putting out more information on the affiliate side? Should we be talking about how to run classes and, what it's like to own an affiliate? So in an attempt to put that out there and, ask people for some feedback on, would you guys like to see more content like this? We jump into the phase stuff and just talk a little bit about some of the same stuff. We're going to be talking about back squats, muscle ups, wall walks, pressing, all these different things that we would talk about on the podcast normally for competitors, but this time sort of under the guise of affiliates, and talk a lot about walking before running. And, that applies here across the board, right? So if at the affiliate level, we're talking about brilliance in the basics, that will extrapolate out to whether you're a coach at the affiliate level, competitive level, or just a competitor when we're talking shop about these sorts of things.
Yeah, I was just going to say that all of these topics, so yeah, maybe we're talking from the guise of an affiliate coach or an affiliate class or affiliate programming, but at the end of the day, everyone who's a competitor had to walk through a CrossFit gym or has to walk into a CrossFit gym at some point. I would argue that a lot of, especially if you're a newer competitor or someone who thinks they have competitive aspirations or is currently embarking on that competitive journey, it's to not skirt around or omit the affiliate class experience, one from just an experiential standpoint and developing the friendships and relationships and stuff like that. We've talked a lot about the importance of, if you're a competitor at an affiliate gym, making sure that you're not you're the weirdo ultimately, right? You're the one, if you're off in the corner doing something different, if your gym allows that to occur during classes, you're doing something a little bit different. Jumping into the odd class every once in a while is really important, I think, for one, you as a competitor to create those relationships, but two, when we do training camps for competitive athletes, I tell this to my affiliate level athletes all the time. I don't have one back pocket with cues for CrossFit Games athletes, and then the other pocket is my dog shit cues for affiliate athletes who don't get the good ones because they're not CrossFit Games athletes. It's completely untrue. All those cues come from the same kind of bucket of knowledge. Obviously, they get communicated differently to different levels of athlete, but ultimately, all of the foundational level stuff that coaches learn at the L1, the L2, that sort of stuff applies to the highest level competitive athlete. We're just assuming that those athletes have done have basically done the initial foundation laying work in order to get themselves to where they're at. But ultimately, it's just a, kind of needs vary by degree, not by kind sort of thing. So regardless of what level you're at as an athlete or a coach, like, I don't know. I think the affiliate level stuff is often omitted by competitive athletes and shouldn't be, and then is also just like our passion.
Well, if you look at the development of an athlete too, if you like go back to the old, level 1 type of stuff, you talk about nutrition being the base and then metabolic conditioning being kind of the second level there. There is no greater environment than an affiliate class to develop your metabolic conditioning. Like, you have someone there who's thinking about how you move as an athlete, knows what the stimulus of the workout is, and puts a premium on you getting the best workout possible. So before you worry about like what your weightlifting numbers are or how many muscle ups you can do, like those things are all valuable things as a competitor you need. And a CrossFit coach, should aspire to help an athlete either achieve those goals or get closer to achieving those goals. Like, there's no greater environment than going into an affiliate class and ramming your head on the wall with 16 other like-minded people who are all like, let's get a really good workout today and get really fit, because that is kind of the bare bones and the most basic need for most athletes that attend your gym, regardless if they have aspired to be CrossFit Games athletes or they're 100 pounds overweight and they want to be able to, walk down the driveway when they're 75 years old.
It's not a coincidence that I find athletes who come into the sport from maybe they were into another sport or they saw the CrossFit Games, they come in, they want to compete right away. Like, I find a strong correlation with lower athlete IQ related to a lot of things, because that interactive classroom effect isn't there, and there isn't the push-pull of like, I haven't figured this out yet, that person has, that sort of drags people along in a certain way. People, I call it the hive strength of the hive mind or movement within the class. People learn things from each other in a very much of like the monkey see, monkey do way. And man, there's at least a tiny sliver of the athlete IQ pie that has to be Larry mode. Like, for anybody that doesn't know what I'm talking about like a full Larry is someone who's like chugging the purple Kool-Aid from CrossFit all the time and has the rings that those creepy kids get from the Kool-Aid. Sure.
Nothing wrong with that.
Has like a little bit. You're not full Larry. You're definitely a Larry. But I think some sliver of that athlete IQ pie is, I don't know, maybe it's like buy-in or something like that to the idea, to the methodology, to being taught within this place, to understand, if you are training all alone all the time and then you go try and compete, you're probably going to be flabbergasted and surprised at what happens. Guess what? In an affiliate class, you're going to be competing on a daily basis. And I think that's like super important. See a lot of people that struggle with going from in gym to in person are missing that training partner element. They're missing that like thing where people are pulling them along.
Yeah, I watch a lot of athletes who, say they have competitive aspirations or want to get good at the sport, and they're out there doing muscle up drills, or they got a barbell for the 17th time in a row or 17th day in a row, and they're already a proficient strength athlete. It's like, I know you're doing what you like to do, because that's tendency of human nature is to, emphasize our strengths and avoid our weaknesses. But like, if you really do have aspirations of doing better in the sport of CrossFit, that's something that drives you to come here every single day. Like, you need to breathe heavy. You need to be in an environment that allows you to train really hard and pushes you to a level that you won't go on your own. So there is no better environment in the CrossFit class. And if you're someone who aspires to be a competitive athlete and, you hit the affiliate class and you're ready to start adding a little bit more, you need to have an honest conversation with yourself about, if I go ask my, coach or coaches, where do you think the biggest gap lies? I would argue that most of them are going to say that your conditioning isn't at the level it needs to be, because our sport is conditioning. And I think that the shiny object of getting the wall facing handstand push up or being able to snatch 225 is too alluring for a lot of athletes, and it distracts them on a path that isn't ideally in the direction they're trying to go. So having the backbone of a very strong affiliate at your gym helps sort of set the path for that athlete to realize that, like, hey, I can go to this person who's essentially, and I hate this term, but a subject matter expert, but someone who's seen this path enough and seen enough athletes go through it to give you the honest assessment of where you are and where you go. And if you're not relying on your affiliate and you're just trying to wing it for yourself, like, you need to have someone who knows you really, really well and can have an honest conversation with you. And I would argue, and this is something I've heard Hunter say before, like talking about someone who's trying to get their first pull-up, like, there's no place in the world where you're going to really hear an honest assessment of like what you need to, do to be able to get your first pull-up. If someone's like, yeah, just do this banded exercise and do a handstand hold and that's going to get you your first pull-up. It's like, no, you need to improve your strength and lower your body mass. What I mean there is eat better. You need to pay attention to the way you eat, and having those honest conversations with the athletes and just regular affiliate members is what I think separates kind of what CrossFit does for people versus kind of the rest of the world where we, tap dance around actual solutions for problems.
So Hunter mentioned the idea of the cue for the CrossFit Games athlete is the cue for the beginner and everywhere in between. The beautiful thing about programming, especially related to strength programming, is that is also the case, right? We can use these same tools in a different environment, especially when the intensity and volume is moderated by how much weight you can personally lift. And the rotating carousel that I've used for, decade plus, when it comes to getting someone stronger in general, and obviously within the back squat specifically, is like higher rep back squat. So, sets of 10, that sort of thing, get your legs under you. And then we move on to 5x5. 5x5 linear progression is like, it's the end all be all. It is like the secrets of life are built into that when you add linear progression. And I am not joking in the least bit. I have learned more from linear progression back squat about how to act in life and how to get better at things and how to grind through things than anything else. It is that important. And I want you guys to start with selling the stimulus to a class, because a personal pet peeve of mine is knocking myself 4,000 feet into the dirt with a heavy 5x5 and then seeing someone else in class use warm-up weight and be like, when does the Metcon start?
Oh, man.
That's go first. You can jump into it.
You go ahead, Sharp. Go for it.
I mean, I look at that and I think the key of finding a good CrossFit affiliate is having someone who can explain to you kind of what the intent of the program is and what the long-term trajectory is for an athlete, whether that's in a single day, a series or a phase, or your like longevity in the gym from start till when, the day you drop dead because you love CrossFit so much you did to the day you die. And I think that's important because if you don't set someone up on a path or they understand that, like, before we worry about how fast you can go, how heavy you can go, or how complex you can go, I need a safe, full range of motion that allows you to express this movement in the highest order, because that is what translates to everything else that you do. A partial squat is not a squat. If you train a partial squat, you'll know why your snatch and your clean and jerk's no good. And when you can explain to people on a fundamental level the value in doing it the correct way, then you get the buy-in, because athletes see themselves progress in a longer timeline, and they know they see that progression, whether that's in a single phase or a year or multiple years. So when you go to an athlete and you tell them, hey, this is why we're trying to do this, you need to find what kind of sticks to them as their why for going to the gym. Some people, it's competitive CrossFit and they want to have a higher clean and jerk and snatch so they can do better in the open. And other people, it's like, hey, I want to be able to bend down and pick up my grandkids and give them a hug, at Christmas. Figuring out what that thing is allows you to connect with that person to help them see the way that you're trying to express to them, so they understand that, like, I am pushing you because I am looking out for your best interest, or I'm telling you to use less weight because that's not going to translate to you reaching your goals. And it's funny that when you juxtapose those two kind of ideals, you have the person who's trying to be healthy and live a long time and play with their grandkids. They tend to be those folks that go a little bit on the lighter side and kind of avoid the heavy weights because they're, nervous what's going to happen if they do that. Then you have the athletes on the other side who are like, I want to load this fucking bar up because that's what's going to get me to the CrossFit Games if I can get stronger in this lift. And trying to find equal balance in how you deliver the information, because the information you tell the lifestyle athlete needs to be in a way that connects with them. And then you need to have a similar way of explaining that to the, fitness athlete or the competitive CrossFit athlete, what connects to them. And then figuring out, what makes you tick, and then how can I explain this in a way that makes you understand that I'm looking out for your best interest. Because I tell athletes when they come to the gym, I want this to be the last fitness thing you ever do. You know, we've all known the person who goes to GNC, buys the fitness magazine, does it for 7 weeks, and they're like, fuck, that was awesome. And 7 weeks are up, and they're like, so do I just like do it again, or do I find another one? Like, I want you to be healthy and fit and strong for a lifetime, because the further I can push you into fitness as a young person, the longer we're hedging our bets later on as we get older and sicker, that we can perform at a high level and experience life to the fullest. I think a little lost in the sauce there, Drew, but essentially what I'm trying to get athletes to understand.
That's super important. And it's funny. I know that you've read the newer Peter Attia book, Outlive.
Yeah, it's very good. Yeah, it's Outlive.
One of my favorite parts of it reminded me of your beginner's speech. Like, before he was putting this content out and explaining that when someone comes to him, they start there. You tell me what you're trying to accomplish, because then I can hold you to set standard. And once again, we've arrived at a place where if someone tells me that they want to win the CrossFit Games, it's like, are you sure you want me to treat you that way? Because it's going to take more than you think. And then we can back it all the way down to, like, one of his examples is, I think the guy liked to maybe go fishing or boating with his grandson, and there's like a crazy amount of steps from the lake house down this like cliffside kind of thing to his dock. And he's like, I want to be able to do that when I'm like 70 or 80. And he's like, we got some work to do. But I love the concept of, this is what I'm asking for. And like, the great thing is, someone can think that they understand what something like that takes, but you guys can actually like bring that to the table and say, well, like, we got to get you to a point where you're doing those goblet step ups with the 1.5 pood kettlebell. Like, there's no way this is going to happen if that doesn't happen. And luckily, we have linear progression here. We have shorter boxes, lighter kettlebells. Like, we can work from point A to point B. But if you're going to lay that out for me, then I get to come back in with the, like, here it is, bunch of grunt work. Like, we're going to get it done.
It's the beauty of affiliate class too, is you have someone who has hopefully seen this progression from, you know, you have a member that walks in the door 100 pounds 5 years ago, overweight, and then 5 years later, they're like the shining example in class of like, that person over there that you think is a stud in this CrossFit class came through this door like with a walker, like, and was doing box squats to a 30-inch box and couldn't raise their arms over their head. And now they're doing full depth air squats and handstand holds and things like that. So you've seen the progression of someone from that very deconditioned state all the way to the highest level. And you explain to that athlete that we're going to kind of meet you where you are. Now, your goals will tell us how big a gap is from where you are to where you want to go, but we're going to meet you where you are. And our job as CrossFit coaches is to understand your physiology and your, like, both what they call physiological and psychological tolerance for discomfort, because, you know, comfort's a slow death. I really like that. It's also in Peter Attia's book. He talks about like comfort is a slow death. Like, if you want to live to be, you know, that 100-year-old that can do whatever you want, like, you have to actively seek out being uncomfortable, whether that's, you know, walking further than you ever walked, lifting heavier weights, going in cold, going on and all those do things that are relatively healthy. You have to find those things to push those boundaries so you're uncomfortable. And then this is where you are. This is where you want to go. And here are the breadcrumbs on the trail to go from, this is your day one here at, you know, Misfit Gym Portland, Misfit Gym Wyndham, to in 5 years from now, I want you to be able to go, I did a Go Ruck challenge that was 5 hours long and I carried a 50-pound backpack. And when I walked in on day one, like, I had to sit down as soon as I got in there because I was out of breath.
I mean, one of our yearly taglines back in the day was grow or die. And I don't think you're going to find very many people who you go to them and say, like, are you looking for growth anywhere in your life? And they're going to be like, not really. But then on the other side of it is like, growth is like super fucking painful. And one of the ways that you can learn that to extrapolate it out into the, you know, whatever goal you have is to throw a bunch of weight on your back and be like, this is how you grow. You go through uncomfortable shit and then come out the other side. So, I don't know if you want to jump in on that, Hunter. I do have another question on the back squat, but I'll let you cook if you want to talk.
No, I think Sherb covered a lot of it, and I think like I would repeat some of the stuff. But yeah, why don't you cue up the next question? And I'll answer.
Yeah, I mean, hit the fucking stimulus. Like, the stimulus is heavy back squats. It's sore legs. It's all of these things. So that's what we are campaigning for at the moment.
Part of what we have to be able to do as coaches is communicate one, and this is a fuck, man, I'm struggling with my vocabulary today. This is a good
Caught that from me.
a nod to getting the coaches to take class. So if you're a affiliate coach and you've never done a Texas Method back squat class, a Texas Method style, 5 sets of 5 once a week, like you need to understand what that's supposed to feel like. We get a lot of times where coaches will, in class, the only thing programmed for these days is 5 sets of 5 back squats with what should end up being 3 to 5 minutes of rest between sets. And we get affiliates who will be like, well, what else do we do in class? And in my head, I'm like, holy fuck, like I can't imagine doing more than that in class, moving through the class quickly enough to get people the stimulus that we're after and still have time and energy to do something else afterward. So as a coach, we need to understand, like Drew said, like what the stimulus is, and the stimulus is this fucking sucks. It's like we
but
get
in the
people,
funnest way possible.
but in an awesome way. We get people warm. We hold athletes. This is a huge one. We hold athletes to a high standard of movement quality. I think that tends to, as the weight gets heavier, as people's egos start to come a little bit more into play, when the weights get heavier, the first thing to drop off the map is the standard to which we hold athletes. And I had this conversation with my 6:30 p.m. class last night. Like, it was very clear, hey, one of the beautiful things about CrossFit is that it's, and one of my personal favorite things as an analytical thinker is that CrossFit is observable, measurable, and repeatable. And with that, what it means, in order for something to be able to be observed, measured, and repeated, there needs to be a standard of, like, a minimum standard associated with that. And I gave the example of, hey, you walk into a commercial gym, you see some dude who looks like a house and squats, quote squats 600 pounds, and they unrack the bar and it's what looks like a jerk dip of some sort, essentially not a squat. And it's like, well, there has to be a black and white line at which point we say that was not a rep, that was a rep. And this isn't just about, hey, squat below parallel or do the movement to the standard. It's, why do we want that? Well, how about if you want to get as strong as possible, squat through a full range of motion. If you want to be bulletproof from an injury perspective, develop strength through a full range of motion. And then on the opposite end of the spectrum, hey, do you want to have functioning hips when you're 90 years old, the ability to actually move your hip through the range of motion that it was designed to move through? Like, squat below parallel and do that now, so that when you are 90 years old, that's not a foreign place to be. And that would be pretty cool too, if you could, if your effort now showed those results when you were 90 years old. That's what we're after. So the stimulus is, this fucking sucks, and every week it's going to suck a little bit more, and then in retest, the retest is going to suck, but you'll have gotten stronger and you'll be happy that you spent 7 weeks, being sore for your back squat session and making sure that you are actually hitting the stimulus. And coaches are actually holding athletes to that standard of saying that was too light for your third set of 5 back squats. Like,
I love that too, when athletes come in and they're like, does this ever not get hard, or am I ever going to not be sore? And you're like, no, you're always going to be challenged by what you're doing in here. And if you weren't challenged, this place wouldn't work. So congratulations. I'm like, I tell them, I'm 13 or 14 years into CrossFit now. Like, I still get fucking sore. It's part of the game. But we have to understand the difference between I'm injured and hurt and I'm sore. And you can teeter that line if you're not ready for what you're trying to do, or, you think that you can squat 405 when more correctly you can squat like 275 to full range of motion for all 25 reps in the 5x5. Like, that's one of the beauties of having an affiliate coach that hopefully can be honest with you and say, objectively, that is not a squat. Like, I went over to a member at our Wyndham gym. She was in the middle of her heavy 5 yesterday, and I'm pushing her to go lower on reps 4 and 5, and she stands the last bar up, a little dizzy from the session or her set. And I go, what'd you do before that? And she goes, whatever weight. And I said, that is your 5 rep max for this phase. I do not like how that last 5 rep looked. You did 3 good squats and then 2 reps that were close, but not good enough. I want you to see the benefit from these squats. It is far more important that you have a realistic number to work off of that allows you to move well. And trust me when I say this, if you focus on moving through that full range of motion these entire 6 weeks that we were doing percentage work, your 5 rep max at the end will be far greater than if you try to use that crappier percentage, that higher number, and move poorly throughout the entire phase. And I have enough evidence, examples of that through us going through these squat cycles to be like, look, that person over there last year added 25 pounds to their 5 rep max. That person over there added 15 reps to their 5 rep max. And every single person I'm pointing to is a shining example of someone who goes through full range of motion and understands kind of what we're going after with our squat phase, or whatever phase it happens to be.
Sherb is doing himself a little bit of a disservice on this podcast. He's like, I think it's the 4 of us together. He's got the Hardo dial turned up a little. He's actually very nice. And when he's coaching affiliate, we call him Fargo Sherb. Hey there, how you doing? Nice to see you today.
It works.
No, I know
it works.
I know it works. That's why I said the Hardo Sherb was the disservice. Okay, so the graph that shows the decline of strength is that trend line is going to be similar for every single human. The variables that you get to change are on that axis. What does the weight show? Like, if I'm starting up here and I know I'm going to lose like 60% of my strength, if that's the case, do you want to be a 200-pound back squatter or a 400-pound back squatter? Like, if I know that we're going to end up in that spot. So, physics and biology are coming for you, and you can set yourself up to be able to mitigate that, and people will still think you're strong when you're 90 years old because you're a hell of a lot stronger than them. You won't think you're strong anymore, but that's going to be okay.
Relative to the people your age, you'll be fucking world class. That's the crazy part. Yeah, you might look down at the 30-year-olds and be like, I can't do what they can do. But like, look at the other 90-year-olds in the room, and good chance of them, 80% of them are dead.
That's
in a bed.
That's part of what I tried to.
Yeah.
That's part of what I tried to communicate with athletes for when we were doing snatching and handstand walking as part of our focus from the last phase. It's like why the fuck do we snatch? Like, I can't snatch very much. Like, it hurts. I'm not very good at this lift, and it's not. I don't actually care that your snatch doesn't look like an Olympian's. What I care about is the fact that you are squatting below parallel, your arms can be straight over your head, you're able to express strength and flexibility through a full range of motion, because when you are 90, if you can do this now, maybe when you're 90, you can do a really solid air squat, and maybe your arms are a little bit out in front of you, but they're certainly able to get over your head. And when you think, like, kind of going back to the L1 for all the coaches there, that sick, well, fit continuum is a really good communication tool as far as saying, like, hey, I want you to get as fit, as far to the right on that continuum now as possible, because the ravages of time will come for you, and you will start to move towards fit, and you will start to move towards sick. But the nice part is that you have to kind of pass through all of those checkpoints on the way there. It's the linear progression in reverse, right? If you're extremely fit now, you're not just going to wake up when you're 70 and be completely sick, right? It takes time for us to go to kind of lose the gains that we have, in the same way that it takes time to kind of go up that ladder when we're thinking about adding 5 pounds per week to our 5x5 back squat. The same thing applies in reverse. So I want you to be as fit and as strong now as possible, and continue to run as far away from the sickness side of that equation as possible, so that when time does start to catch up with you, well, maybe by the time you're 90, you've moved down the meter and you're still pretty damn fucking well and not sick.
Health investment.
True. Okay, this is a spot where I need help. As a coach, being someone who's focused more on semifinals, CrossFit Games athletes, and I want you guys to tell me how I should think about this at the affiliate level. I am obsessed with skill transfer. So when we're going into the back squat, I'm thinking, can you front squat in that stance with a similar torso angle? Can you clean? Can you overhead squat? That sort of thing. You mentioned the segue. The reason it popped into my head is more along the lines of like the low bar back squat curtsy, that someone thinks that they're doing a trillion pounds, likened to the super arched back bench press or whatever. How much do you guys think about that? How much do you guys care about that? Obviously, there's a stimulus element that could lend itself more to allowing someone to potentially have a wider stance or to sit into their squat a little bit more or to play with how high up on their neck that bar is. And obviously, again, for me, I'm thinking one arm max clean and jerk. Like that's what's stuck in the back of my head. How do you guys think about skill transfer when you're teaching the back squat?
It's not a top priority for me at the affiliate level. It's certainly something that's in my head, and having the experience of, coaching high level athletes where I do want a very specific transfer of skill to go, say, from a back squat to a clean and jerk or something like that. For the affiliate athlete, what I'm trying to do is think about it within the context of the individual. So if I have an athlete who comes in who very clearly has some limitations in hips, in ankles, or something like that, I have to recognize that I'm going to work with them and say, hey, like, here's where you're deficient. Here's why the movement's so hard for you. Maybe pay attention to, look at so-and-so who's got really good mobility, and kind of compare that to what yours looks like, trying to communicate to the athlete where they're at. But also trying to basically work with what we have. So there's obviously, we still want to be working with an athlete to go from a, torso that's almost horizontal to something that's a little bit more upright. But at the affiliate level, when we have an hour a day, and I can only ask and assume that they're going to do so much for their own benefit outside of that 1 hour, I am mostly concerned about making sure that you are moving safely, that if we have to make anatomical adjustments, so if I say, hey, we're going to widen your feet out, and for you've got really tight hips, so we're actually going to point the toes out a little bit, whereas somebody who has good flexibility, I might ask them to point their toes more forward, but I'm going to personalize that instruction for that athlete in order to achieve things like, hey, let's focus on the foundations of the squat. Do we have posterior chain engagement? Do we have our feet flat on the floor? Are we getting as low as this person's anatomy and current flexibility allows? And can we achieve the stimulus of getting something really heavy on their back and sitting down and standing up? If that means the barbell is placed a little bit lower, maybe their hips have to go back a little bit farther rather than being perfectly upright like in a front squat, that's a trade that I'm willing to make for an affiliate level athlete. And the worst, again, like if we want to argue skill transfer, I could say, hey, a low bar back squat translates pretty good to a deadlift, maybe not a clean and jerk, but a deadlift. So I could argue both sides of that coin. But understanding that, like, the goal, what the stimulus is, which is a heavy squat session, and then working with that athlete on an individual basis as to, like, okay, so right now your below parallel is to this box until we get our flexibility a little bit better. This is our target. But to the original point of linear progression, I'm not going to worry as much about the weight on the barbell. Next week, that box gets 1 inch lower, and then it gets an inch lower until we're below parallel, and then we can start worrying about adding weight, kind of thinking from a mechanics, consistency, and then intensity standpoint. So to answer the question, it's not a top priority. It's certainly in my head, but there are other areas where we can create a bigger bang for our buck at the affiliate athlete level than worrying about making it look like another movement we might see more frequently in the sport.
Yeah, I just think of it from a universal motor pattern. A squat should hopefully look like a squat. A hinge should look like a hinge. A press should look like a press. And then, I express to them there are ideal body shapes for your body type. Like if you have longer limbs or longer torso, things might change a little bit. So like if you look around the room, like in a beginner's class, you might look over and I tell, Steve over there to lift his hips, and I tell Susie over there to drop her hips based on their body types. But I'm looking for a squat, again, the movement to look like it's supposed to look. And then I express to them that if I change the way you're moving, I'm trying to get you to be as efficient as possible, which means you do the least amount of work per rep, which means you have a higher yield in work done, which is, again, a little jargony for someone who's brand new. But basically I say, I want you to be able to get more done in less time, and I want you to do that safely and quickly, which is why I'm going to talk to you about this is where your feet should be in a back squat, or this is where your arms should be in a snatch, because it's going to be the most efficient way for you to move safely through full range of motion, which means that you understand kind of the fundamentals of functional movement. And, without being super jargony again, I just kind of explained to them, like, this is going to be the safest and most efficient way for you to do it. So when I call for it, it's not me just kind of bugging you, it's because I think you can do it something better. And I'm always chasing a little bit of progress. Perfection is not the aim in a CrossFit class. It's progression, class after class after class. The more touch points you get with somebody, the more you can change their life. So the goal is to give them a bite-sized chunk of information they can understand that allows them to make positive change that is observable to both you and the athlete, and tell them, hey, good job. I'll see you tomorrow and we'll do a little bit better at something else.
And the element of one of the ethereal things within the CrossFit space at the affiliate level is you guys are going to know a lot of these intricacies of the person themselves again and what their goals are. Like if you don't know who this person is enough to know that they secretly really want to become a competitor, then that is a problem, right? So if you guys are looking at a class, you can hold these separate ideas all in here. We've got a person over here that's sitting down to a box, doesn't have the ankle range, really has to sit back, potentially has to move the bar into a position where that's comfortable. And then over here, it's like this person has told me, because I've pried a little bit, that they actually really would love to, end up being a competitor or, clean and jerk more weight or whatever it is. And it's like, okay, we're going to work on getting you a bit more skill transfer there. You're 3.5 days a week. You're going to do 7 minutes of squat holds. Like we know how to get that person there. So a lot of this stuff comes back to not only knowing how to coach a class, knowing how to read and understand the programming, but then also that personal element that brings a lot of the magic into CrossFit.
It's not enough to know what you need to do in a squat or what makes for a good fitness program. If you can't genuinely connect with somebody and you aren't genuinely curious about that person and what makes them tick and what motivates them, it doesn't matter how passionate you are about what the most efficient rep range is, looking at Pro Up's chart for this many reps and this many sets. If you don't fucking know their dog's name is fucking Baxter and they like to go golfing every Sunday, if you don't know that type of stuff, you can't figure out how they tick. You're not going to be as effective as a coach. You could actually have less functional training knowledge but care more about the people and be a better coach than someone who knows every fucking dot of every I and cross of every T, but can't connect with somebody. That is such a huge part of what makes an affiliate successful. And if you can't do that, and if it doesn't sound interesting to you, you're probably in the wrong line of work.
Well, to that example too, so let's imagine Joe Bob, who likes to golf on Sunday and walk his dog. It's like, again, why do I care about squatting? It's like, well, do you want to hit the golf ball farther? It's like, do you want to have properly functioning, do you want to be able to internally rotate in your backswing and then, open your hips as part of that follow through? Like being able to communicate those sorts of nuances as a CrossFit coach. And all that is taking kind of like the foundations of like those basic movements, just understanding like the bare bones minimum of what it means to be a functional movement, what it means to be like to move properly. And all of a sudden, like the door opens as to like most movements in sports like have a foundation of like a basic functional movement like at its core, right? So trying to be able to translate what they're doing into the gym to how it's going to help them outside of the gym is like Sherb said, kind of an invaluable skill and an important part of connecting with people so that you can get the most out of them during that 1 hour.
I'm working with a brand new beginner coach at the Wyndham location. And, before I asked her to be a coach, she actually wrote me a letter that she wanted to coach at the gym. And I couldn't think of a more perfect person because the first thing she did on her very first shadowing experience where she got to, watch me teach class is the first 5 minutes before class even started. She's asking people, what's your spouse's name? What do you do for work? What do you like to do outside of this place? And it's like, that is exactly the right person for this gig. Now, granted, you do need to have presence and knowledge, and those things are all important. You can't just skirt by and getting to know people and being a friendly person. That's not enough when it comes to CrossFit. But like caring about people and wanting to learn more are huge prerequisites to being a really good coach, and she possesses both of those traits. So like, while she's only month 2 into the program, I'm like, you have an extremely bright future here. I know what you currently do as a private instructor. Like, I'm going to see if I can steal more of those hours for here over at the gym, because I really do think you're a talented individual, and I can teach you how to teach thrusters. I can teach you why, telling someone why 25 strokes a minute on the erg in this piece versus 32 minutes in this piece is more valuable. I can't make you be someone who's genuinely curious about people and want to like get to know them and figure out what makes them tick. That is a, one of those traits that just needs to be had by the person, or if it's something you're not good at, something you actually have to practice, because some of these people, some people who are good coaches aren't inherently, the most, extroverted and outgoing people, and they have to work at that thing. But if you're passionate enough about the rest of your gig that you can work on that, there's still hope for you. But you just have to realize that, like anything, it's a skill. Learning how to connect with people is a skill, and some people do it really well and easily, and some people have to actively work at it.
So, not a surprise that I love back squats. If you listen to this podcast or follow the programming, one surprise of a movement that I love that you guys probably wouldn't have guessed, although from your coaching perspective, you'd probably be able to understand. Fuck off. One movement that I love that I think marks, you want to have those moments in your career where something comes out and you say that it's dumb or cheese dick or whatever, and then you come back around to it after a certain period of time. Like, having the humility to be able to do that as a coach, especially for me on the competitive level, is imperative. Like, you don't stand a chance in the sport if you're not willing to adapt and figure things out. I fucking love the wall walk. The wall walk is a great movement. I like movements that don't require any equipment. I like movements that have like a higher skill emphasis to them, but like you can still kind of get through a decent portion of that movement and understand what it is, and just, linear progression once again, like, all right, this was your tape line this week and this is your tape line this week, that sort of thing. It gets the person upside down in a way where they don't have to figure out that whole equilibrium. Like, do I dare to tip over into the wall thing? Stimulus wise, it can be used in a bunch of different ways. Like, there are workouts where you're just like gassed and you don't want to go up into another one. There are workouts where it's just a perfect cardio tool because you can crank through them. And there are workouts where it's like, don't make me do another one. My shoulders are dead. I don't want to do this. So, very much full circle. I honestly don't even remember if I didn't like them back then, but I didn't love them. I know that. So I'm just going to open up the floor. I love wall walks. I don't know if you guys are going to join me in the club, but
my name is Drew, and I love wall walks.
Yep.
Hi, Drew.
Hi, Drew.
Yeah, well, I think I like the wall walk because there aren't too many gymnastics movements where we can get basically every skill level of athlete doing a version of the movement that looks exactly the same from beginner to elite level athlete. It's just a matter of how close you can get yourself to the wall. I think that it provides a sneaky degree of things that you might not think of immediately, things like mobility, range of flexibility, a little bit of coordination, stamina, that sort of thing, in order to be most efficient. And then for the beginner athlete, it's as much as like, hey, we're asking a lot of shoulder stability. We're asking a lot of your midline, kind of an underrated element of that movement for the beginner. And then for the higher level, the fitter athlete, we're looking to add some intensity, add some speed. And there are a lot of ways to get really efficient with the movement as well. Things like reducing the number of steps you need to take, thinking about how quickly you can perform bigger sets of them, whereas a beginner might be, if they have to do 6 of them in a row, it's like, this is gonna take a couple minutes. For an experienced athlete, it's how quickly can I do these, or how much rest do I need between these reps so that it doesn't mess up the rest of my workout. And like the things that you said, Drew, it gets everybody inverted, something that we don't, if it's a handstand push-up day, maybe 25% of the class isn't able to kick upside down for whatever reason. But with the wall walk, we have a lot more accessibility to that inverted position that's really important for functionality and for development of fitness.
I got a weird one. It's a throwback movement. It's the knees to elbow. And now, before we get too far in the weeds here, knees to elbow is something that used to show up on CrossFit.com a lot. And it was actually like kneecaps touch your elbows. So a lot of times athletes would like bend their elbows to do that.
Yeah, you got to do a little like pull and crunch, because normally, like from a limb length standpoint, you'd hit yourself in the tricep with your knee.
So what I've told athletes, and it's been nice seeing it translate to toes to bar. We just had a toes to bar like retest last week with phase 2, and I had athletes warm up with jumping pull-ups, ring rows. I'm sorry, thumbs up again. There it goes on my screen. Thanks, iOS. There you go, Hunter. But it was jumping pull-ups, ring rows.
What the fuck is that?
Yeah, dude. Check it out. Your little heart. For you.
Is that your
together,
computer
Sharon.
just identifying that you do that?
Yeah, it's weird. Do you have the new iOS, Hunter? Loser. Anyways,
It just knows that to not fucking put hearts on my screen.
You know, you'd punch your screen if you did that.
Yeah, my computer knows.
So anyways, it was jumping pull-ups, ring rows, and knees to elbows. And one thing that we try to convey to athletes when they are doing a toe to bar is that when you push down the bar, it's not enough to ball your knees up into your chest, because that's still going to put a long distance between kind of where your feet are if they're hanging down and kicking the pull-up bar. So I told them to aim for basically knees to armpits on the toe to bar. And all of a sudden, like, I had athletes who normally can only do like a one toe to bar with the swing in between, start linking them. And it's because they figured out a different location to put the knee. So I've been thinking about myself. I'm like looking at the calendar for the next couple of times the toes to bar come up, and I'm going to get back to you guys on whether or not this actually works. But with the, N=1 experiment of one class, like both my 3:30 and my 5 o'clock class did significantly better toes to bar with using the knee to elbow as a warm up for that, because it's helping them find a better landmark for where their knee should go in that movement. So
I snuck the knees to elbows in a workout you had to program, right? Did we keep that?
I think so. I don't know what date it's coming up on, but yes, it's in the programming still. But I was really impressed with how that translated to toes to bar. You're welcome.
Okay, so the reason I brought up the wall walks is because the gymnastics bias at teammisfit.com for this phase is wall walks and muscle ups. I think it's super important for anyone listening that could be interested in purchasing this programming to know that when we bias something, that means that it is thoughtfully sprinkled into a program that is built all around variance. Like, you're coming in and you're doing different time domains and couplets and triplets and monostructural work and strength work, different skills, different movements, different stimulus. That is the base of the program. But when we go in and we pepper in these movements at a certain interval, you really get that buy-in from the community. And you can, especially, the easiest way to think about it for me is the strength progression. Like, it's just low-hanging fruit. Like, I would rather have an athlete come in and back squat weekly for a period of time to see the gains that they make than go through a rotation where it's like, I got a little bit more excited because today's overhead squat instead or front squat instead. And then you come out the other side and you don't have a stronger squat, which is what people will want. So I think the 7-week time frame can be really helpful because it's not so long that someone gets bored. But it is long enough to really make an adaptation and a change. And it's one of those things where if the athlete buys in and you can really sell it as a coach, they're going to be really happy with you on the other side of it because they're going to be able to move more weight. So the gymnastics bias, wall walks, and muscle ups. Another thing that I am very much obsessed with and really get excited about is helping people with their muscle ups. The rant that I'm about to go on is another one of my probably belongs in a visual medium. So Team Misfit affiliates, go in the Discord and let us know if you want this as a longer progression. But I've sort of gotten to the point where I can get almost any athlete to clean up their movement patterns in a way that allows them to get over the rings, not just once, but multiple times. And it's really just about mastering the basics and putting yourself into the right positions so often in a skill setting that when you are under fatigue, that's your default movement pattern. So we just go hollow arch, like we get those kip swings in, we make sure that they are like exactly how we want them to be. And if that is something where they're not getting into the right position or they're like just swinging their lower body and the rings are staying sort of in line, then that's the movement pattern that we're stuck on, that we're going to stay there and we're going to work on that. And it's like, cool thing that you can tell an athlete is if you spent 5 minutes after class 1 to 5 times a week on this, you were going to be able to make a lot of change and you're going to get more comfortable with being up on the rings. From there is the controversial element that I bring to the table, where once an athlete can see their feet in front of them and they have created the hollow body position, we're going to redirect that hip pocket by creating some knee bend. And again, this athlete just goes hollow, or arch hollow knee bend, and just hammers that movement pattern. This is how I move. This is how I move. From there, and this is something that I'm working on with one of our affiliate athletes right now, is so many people from that position extend their hips and send their feet flying to the sky. And unfortunately, if you do that, your entire body is basically perpendicular or parallel with the ground. And you got a lot of work to do to get your entire body rotated over those rings. So we look for that knee pocket, or the hip pocket is created with the knee bend. And then that hip extension, I'm going to try to do this both if you're watching and listening. Okay. So tuck your chin right now. Tuck your chin to your chest. Sure. That is going to be how we want head and torso related to one another. Torso is close to parallel with the ground. Chin is tucked, so I'd be looking out into the gym, but my lower leg is hanging. So I'm creating this shape where my lower leg and my torso kind of create an L shape. When I do that hip extension and I have that there, when I go to transition over the rings, my head goes forward and my legs swing under the rings. This idea is no different than harnessing the free energy in the kip swing, on the pull-up bar, on the rings, whatever it is. But just getting an athlete to always tuck their chin, extend their hips, and leave their lower leg dangling over a month or so, where they're like, I'm so bored of this. When you introduce the echo bike into something, burpees, whatever it is, they will do that and then heave themselves over and get that first muscle up under fatigue that they have. But it is so challenging to super fresh, use God knows what form to heave yourself over those rings and think I have muscle ups now, and then go into moving under fatigue and do that same thing. And it takes the right athlete, it takes the right person to give them a pile of boring things to work on. What's beautiful, though, is typically in this kind of class, we're not going to program a bunch of other stuff. So you're going to be able to go in and take the whole class through it, right? And then they know, I've just taught everyone here how to do the kip swings, how to create the hip pocket, how to do the extension. And it's okay, you know where you're at in this progression. If you want the muscle up that bad, keep at it.
I think a really important concept that you introduced there that might have got lost in the sauce with the visual elements you were trying to do with your hand there is the demanding of the consistency. And I think it's something that is a marker of a high level coach, and anyone who aspires to be a high level coach, is that you demand fundamentals, and you can explain to an athlete, every time you do anything in the gym, you either stepping one step closer to achieving that goal, or you are cementing a mover pattern that is one step further away from getting that movement for the first time, or that heavier weight. So when you are talking to an athlete, to help them understand the path they are on, you can explain it to them very plainly. The things that I'm telling you to do are one step closer to what I think you need to be doing to get said weight, movement, skill, whatever that is. Every time you get a chance to practice, if you move this way, you are a little bit closer and a little bit closer. And I can't say exactly how long it's going to take you, but every time you do it the right way, you're inching closer and closer and closer to it. But if you do not heed my advice and you just keep trying this way, and you wonder why 6 months from now you haven't made progress, come back to me and let's have the same conversation again. Because sometimes it does take a few go-rounds with an athlete to be like, I don't tell you things that I don't think are going to genuinely help you. Like Hunter was saying, is I don't have my favorite athlete cues in my back pocket and athletes I don't like in the other pocket. And I'm like, yeah, this person sucks. Here's your cue. No, I genuinely care about all of you. And I want you to understand that if I'm demanding something that seems really basic, it's because you haven't done it right. And you don't have that cemented yet. Let's get that figured out first, and then take another step forward, and then take another step forward. So if you're asking me, why can't you do bar muscle ups, and you keep grabbing 3X bands and you keep doing these banded bar muscle ups that look nothing like how an actual muscle up looks, but it carries you over the bar because it's supporting 80% of your body weight, and you wonder why you haven't got bar muscle ups, it's because you haven't listened to me. You haven't practiced the drill of jumping into a bar muscle up and learning how to swing underneath the bar, or you don't understand the kip, or you don't know how to push down the bar. These are the things that need to happen first. And sometimes it's not skill. Sometimes, I'm sorry, but you're just not strong enough relative to your body mass. We need to address your diet. We need to address what you're doing to get yourself stronger. Or maybe you're not consistent enough. There are always things that you can work on. And a coach should always feel comfortable enough to be very honest with an athlete of hey, if you're not sleeping and eating well, we got to start there. And once you've got that checked off, all right, maybe you got to come to the gym more consistently. You're only coming twice a week and you want to do bar muscle ups and you show up only on bar muscle up day and heavy back squat day. Like, hey, there's a reason why you haven't got there. Or maybe you just saw this one really cool drill on Instagram and you just keep trying it and trying it and trying it. And why in 6 months you still don't have bar muscle ups? Come back to me. I'm trying to help you. And sometimes it takes buy-in. Some athletes are going to be hard-headed and take a long time to win over. And some athletes finally throw the papers up in the air and go, fuck it, I can't figure it out. How can you help me? And when you tell them the basic stuff, you have to explain to them that you're seeing the future for them. Like, I've seen this movie before. It's like when someone comes to a class and they ask me, you know, hey, I'm going to do Air Force WOD. You cool doing 95 pounds? And I'm like, hey, man, I wouldn't. I'd go 75 pounds. Like, I could do thrusters at 95. I'm like, yeah, I know you can. Can you do 100 barbell reps in less than 10 minutes with some burpees sprinkled in? And they're like, probably. And it takes them 19 minutes to do Air Force WOD. And you're like, walk over to them as they're like catching their breath in the ground. It's like, hey, man, was 95 the right call? And they're almost always like, nah, it should have been 75.
What if you
right.
can thruster 295, but you can't do the Air Force WOD?
Metabolic conditioning, bro.
Okay.
Nutrition's probably okay. The next step up.
Also, there's the like, does this person really, really hate that they don't have a muscle up, or is it like the Mighty Ducks phenomenon? Like, you just watch Mighty Ducks, I gotta go play some street hockey immediately. 2 or 3 days later, maybe it wears off, right? Like, you do muscle up day and the big shiny object is there, and there is nothing wrong with like a fucking 10-year affiliate member that just doesn't care if they have their muscle up or not. There's
cool.
nothing wrong with that at all. But again, knowing your members, knowing what they're trying to get after. Don't be the coach, which I've been before. It's like, no, you need to stay after and do 6 hours of muscle up drills. And they're like, sir, this is an Arby's. Why don't you fucking take it down a notch?
Fucking Arby's, get out.
All right. Scaling within the muscle up. Next week, we have every minute for 30 minutes in teams of 5. So if my math is right, you go every 6 minutes or every 5 minutes,
Every
for
5.
6 rounds. One smooth set of muscle ups, 10/7 calorie air bike.
Sorry, I can't help it. I wonder what the other ones are.
Your coaching class, you look at StreamFit and you got 912 people signed up for your class. What are the 3 to 5 scaling options that you have in your back pocket that you're ready to rifle off? Because if you give 1 minute to 25 people, it's going to be a problem, right? Sometimes you have to have, when you know it's going to be a wide array, you have to have that stuff ready. Sometimes I see you guys write it up on the whiteboard, but for muscle ups specifically, what have you got in your back pocket to be like this, then this, then this, then that?
So so for this piece specifically, again, it's basically 6 rounds. Imagine if you're an athlete, 6 rounds of 1 set of muscle ups followed by a very short bike sprint with a lot of rest. One, as a coach, we need to understand the stimulus of the workout. The stimulus of the workout is this is a bike sprint day where athletes get to do a muscle up beforehand when they're not under fatigue. Muscle up, muscle ups, or your variant of muscle ups if it's a scaled version. So this piece, again, specifically, I would be inclined to allow athletes to do something like a banded strict muscle up. Even though the intensity on it is low, they get the intensity, assuming the coach communicates this correctly, they get the intensity, the intended stimulus of the day, which is the bike sprint. So it's acceptable to allow an athlete to work on a lower intensity, borderline skill development style movement like a banded strict muscle up, although that's plenty metabolically and metabolically challenging and requires some strength to do as well, assuming that they get on the bike and then hammer it as hard as they can afterward. That being said, there are days when muscle ups are that is not the type of workout, in which case we want to provide athletes with an option of muscle ups that allows them to perform the stimulus of the workout. And basically, the way that I kind of do run these sorts of classes is that I get people generally warm, and general warm up doesn't typically involve any sort of high skill elements. We're not going to do kipping from the rings. We're not going to do banded strict muscle ups in our general warm up. I'm going to get you generally warm. And then once we start talking about or moving through a more specific warm up, basically we're going to go ring rows with a false grip, basically a standing ring muscle up. So imagine you do a ring row and pull yourself onto the top of the rings, and then you can perform a jumping dip. For then, once we get past that, we start thinking about using a band for kind of a banded strict muscle up, and then we can go up to the taller rings. But what that did is I just introduced basically every scaling option that's acceptable for that day along the way. And maybe once I say, hey, everybody, you got about 3 minutes before this workout starts, that's at what the point say, hey, it's acceptable today if you want to do bar muscle ups, let's do that. Warm those up on your own, or hey, I'm going to watch you, give you a few pointers on those bar muscle ups. But essentially, my specific warm up as a coach is going to, what they say, drop the kids off at the bus. So once you find that, okay, first one is ring row. Okay, 100% of my class can do the ring row. Terrific. Now we're going to do ring row, and you're going to turn over into the top of that muscle up, and you're going to add a little bit of a dip. And let's say I lose about 15% of the class because they can't support themselves on top of the rings. Okay, I've found a pretty close to appropriate muscle up scaling option for 10% of my athletes. And then I continue so I've dropped that 10% of kids, quote, off at the bus stop. That's what they're doing. And then I continue to iterate that, advancing the skills, advancing the warm-up difficulty, introducing additional options until every affiliate athlete has an appropriate version of the muscle up for them. And we've warmed up the movement for the fittest athletes, because the fittest athletes have along the way performed all of these variants. So their muscle ups are warm, and then I can, work with them on the high rings afterward, or I can get everybody kipping from the high rings, and maybe only 5% of my class actually gets over the rings in that class, which is fine. But I'm essentially trying to create a warm-up that warms up the fittest athletes to be able to do the full movement, while at the same time dropping the kids off at the bus with their most advanced version of the movement for that day.
You're dropping them off at the bus? Or are you the bus dropping them off?
That's what we call it.
Are they all
like when your parents
brought
you to the bus stop? We're going to drop them off at the bus.
Yeah, that's probably a good point. I'm letting you off. If I got I'm the bus driver. In my head, it wasn't that, but that does make more sense that I would be the bus driver, letting the children off of the bus as
at
we
different
go.
stops.
beep, beep.
Yeah, we get the idea.
I like that. I mean,
I got it before this conversation started, and now I don't.
Yeah, now I'm no longer understand anything I just said.
Yeah, the only other thing that I might add to what Hunter said there, if maybe you've done a recent class where you have done the low ring transitions and you're like, all right, these people clearly know how to do that low ring stuff, but under intensity, they basically aren't strong enough. You could potentially offer the opportunity to work between like strict banded pull-ups and like strict ring dips, or banded strict ring dips as another opportunity. And again, I think what's really important here is understanding the stimulus. Like if it's gas, you need to have an option that allows someone to get their heart rate super high, and understanding like if the muscle ups are the feature or kind of like the side dish on the main course of the workout. So in this workout that we're explaining, like the muscle ups are like the stuff on the side. It's the peas and the carrots, not the T-bone steak that's on their plate. But other days it's the focal point. So you have to understand kind of what that is. And then is it breathing heavy? Is it lots of rounds? Is it you're supposed to get stuck there? Then just kind of making an appropriate judgment there. And what's great about, coaching, every single class is an experiment. You do a 5 o'clock class and you fucking hate how it goes. Don't do the same thing at 6:30. Do something different. And I think that's one thing that I really would encourage a coach to do, is experiment with as many different styles of modifying a workout, and then making notes afterwards for what really sticks well, and things that like, that wasn't great, I'm not going to do that again. Or maybe that wasn't great for this class, it's good for that class in 2 weeks from now.
At the beginning of the episode, or at least at the beginning of this part of the episode, we talked about the affiliate class, the affiliate experience being at least some part of, if not a huge part of, the competitor's journey. And we are Misfit Athletics. This is the Misfit podcast. And because we are known for this, both in our affiliate and people who are going to teammisfit.com, they're like, okay, these are the Misfit Athletics guys. They write affiliate programming. They've got, 25, 30 years of affiliate, ownership experience. They want, some of our customers want to know, like, how do we bridge that gap? Like, if I'm going to show up to the affiliate class, if I'm going to buy in to this concept, how am I then going to go from here to there. And that's why our affiliate program has the competitor extra. We have a 90-minute class per day here at the gym. And we do, 2 to 3 pieces that have the competitor extra in there. And then that information is out there for all of our members for like open gym and whatnot, because obviously having one class a day doesn't always necessarily work. And what's great about this is when you look at an affiliate program and you ask yourself, like, what is missing from this to, in an iterative linear progression progress, take me from where I'm at just a little bit closer to quarterfinals and then a little bit closer to semifinals. And it's lifting, monostructural work, additional metcons, zone 2 work, skill sessions, and accessory work. Those are the things that we cannot cram into class and provide a great experience for members with. But what we can do is get all of the affiliate programming done and then go, if I was a competitor, what would I be missing here? What are the things that can be sprinkled in a thoughtful manner that can take me from point A to point B? And again, as the person who wants to be competitive, you are bringing the intensity to this party, right? So if you're lifting and you're stronger, you're going to get a good stimulus, right? The monostructural work, like if you're going to move the needle, you got to go faster than you used to go. The zone 2 work, well, that's the like long, boring, unsexy stuff that you have to do. Skill sessions, there's always scaling options built into that stuff. Like we're going to meet you where you're at, but we're going to give you a way to do this. And I think so many people want to buy into the affiliate side of things. They want to go in and have that, but then don't have the wherewithal. Maybe the gym's not going to export a month or two for them to figure out how to do this calculus. And then, no offense, you probably don't know how in the same way that we do after, again, a very long time in the sport. So the competitor extra is something that I think really not just bridges the gap, but connects Team Misfit to Misfit Athletics in a really cool way. I think we've gotten way better at making sure that the affiliate programming itself is affiliate programming, and then the competitor extra again is like, here's a peek into that universe a little bit, where you can really again help your athletes get there. And kind of the joke to end the rant here is we're going to be in deep shit with the 25% of athletes from the Open going to quarterfinals, because we were already in trouble with people that followed the competitor extra going to quarterfinals.
Please no GHD setups.
So many of them didn't even know what it was. They're just like, well, you go to Misfit Gym Portland, Misfit Gym Wyndham for long enough, and you knock out that competitor extra, you're going to trip and fall into quarterfinals. And now that window's bigger. So get the red tape out, boys.
Yeah, we get a question probably like every couple months from an affiliate who's interested in, hey, we want to do the affiliate programming, or we're currently following the affiliate program, but we have coaches who want to do individual programming, or who want to do the Misfit Athletics individual programming. Does the affiliate program line up with Misfit Athletics? And I'll start at the end here. The answer is no, it doesn't. The two programs are written for two different groups of people. There's also, I don't have to tell an affiliate coach what the constraints are of running, an affiliate class with a limited amount of space, equipment, time, all of those sorts of things. Whereas for an individual competitor, you are only limited by how hard you want to try to get this program done. I don't really care how long it takes you. I'm going to assume you have all of the equipment, all of the space, and all of the time to do it. My answer to those athletes, aside from explaining that no, it doesn't line up perfectly, that one, the program is written by the same people, and it's written using the same system to ensure that the same variants that our individual competitors get, our affiliate athletes get as well, which is arguably even more important for the affiliate athlete. The second part of that is that if you are an individual or an affiliate athlete or a coach who wants to be peeking into that competitive universe, the first step is a realistic analysis of where you're at and what your goal actually is. The competitor extra will do an excellent job of making sure that you are not only prepared for anything the Open is going to throw at us, but more than likely anything that quarterfinals is going to throw at us, given what we know about it and what we can predict a little bit as far as movements that could come down the pike. But again, if you're an athlete seeking that potential competition like atmosphere, you need to, one, be able to hammer the affiliate workouts, just the affiliate programming itself, as written and at a high enough intensity. At that point, then we introduce the competitor extra, whether it's once per week, gradually, linear progression to twice a week and then 3 times a week, and then you're doing it 5 days a week with that competitor extra. And now you've built in the routine of doing probably 2 or 3 training pieces in one day. You're getting the Maffetone or the MF2 session on that rest day. Once you have built those habits and are hammering all of that programming, that's the point where I might say, well, if you're already doing all of that and you're crushing it and you still have higher level aspirations and you have the time to do more, then maybe we talk about individual programming that isn't the exact affiliate program. But everything I just said covers about 95% of athletes who are
It's a long road.
It's a long fucking road, and it like, again, you're going to log into Misfit Athletics and follow the Hatchet program, and you're going to get a similar dose of volume. As far, at least the mandatory work is going to be very similar to what you get at the affiliate level. And oh, by the way, when you're doing the affiliate program, if you're a coach, you're doing the same program as your athletes. I can't speak to how important that is enough, especially like initially. At some point, thinking to our athletes, Caroline and Austin, who did do affiliate programming for a long time, but eventually did grow out of it. Although the couple weeks per year that they do affiliate programming, they might say that they haven't grown out of it because it usually beats them up pretty good. But at some point they did actually grow out of it because they had goals. They did all of they did all the work, and their performance indicated that they need a little bit more in order to achieve the goals that they want. But for the other 99% of us mortals, that's not the case. And you're going to be able to extract an extremely high level of fitness out of those training pieces before you need to think about going to, a further individualized competitor specific type of program.
As a coaching staff, we've never been fitter top to bottom, and we've never had better gym cohesion since we've have everybody on the same program. I think that's the easiest way to try to sell this on somebody. It's like, you may think you need more, and if you still feel that way, it's probably not going to be this conversation that convinces you to do otherwise. But our gym has never been tighter, and our coaches from top to bottom have never been fitter than the ones that currently do our Team Misfit affiliate programming. A handful of days a week. They're in classes with other coaches. They can compare scores, notes. They have the experience of doing the class before they coach the class. And our gym, again, used to be the bros in the corner doing their own thing, weightlifting, doing Misfit programming, distracting from class. The product wasn't as good. If you want to make a tighter knit gym, which is ultimately going to drive your success as a business owner and to make sure that everyone has a good time there and make someone believe in the program that you have, if you get everyone top to bottom to do it, you will have a better gym. And I can't find anyone that can prove me wrong on that. And if you have an example, I'd love to hear it, but I'll probably argue with you.
Yeah, I think we started sort of with you get what you give. Like that idea of if you fucking slink your way around the gym and drop a 5 RPE on a 5x5 back squat, you're not going to get shit out of it. As affiliate coaches and owners, you are going to get back from your members and your community what you pour into your community. If you are the type of athlete that Hunter referenced that wants to find the program, the secret thing, and you want to blame the program about how you're doing versus you get what you give, you go in and you think about these pieces, and it's like, if I go through the motions, there isn't much of a point to this at all. Okay, you're going to burn a few extra calories every day, and you're not going to, your point A is going to be point B, and point C, they're all going to be the same fucking point. So like this idea of you get what you give applies to back squats, and it applies to community, and it applies to whether a program can actually like help you become a competitor. Like so much of this stuff is there, and we get to say this because we've tried the other ways in a lot of categories over a long stretch of time. And I don't know if you guys are familiar with the midwit meme, but you basically have like a Neanderthal on the left, and then this dude in a hood on the right, and then the bell curve goes up to the midwit is the like Z7 squats with 19-second pause at the bottom, and you need 212 grams of protein at 41 degrees Celsius, and then you come back down the other side, and then the Neanderthal and the hooded figure have the same outcome. So this guy would say 5x5, and this guy would say 5x5, and then the midwit, who you're a midwit at some point in your journey when you're trying to figure all this shit out, has the most complex, ridiculous thing to go and figure out. Did you get in the cold tub at 1 degree Celsius 2 seconds before you squatted, and then did you sun your beanbag afterwards? That's the midwit.
Yeah, I think that I can. There are way too many checkpoints that have to be hit before we talk about a personalized individual competitor program that we could do an entire podcast on that. But again, if you're a coach asking that question, or an affiliate level athlete asking that question of should I be doing the program, or should I be trying to increase my volume to a competitor level, again, how's your sleep? How's your nutrition? How are your habits? How's your consistency? What do you do on rest days? What's your mobility like? Do you actually know how to do the movements correctly, or did you skip the beginner's class and just have figured out these things on your own? There are way too many checkpoints that should be hit before we start talking about increasing the amount of exercise that you're doing. Because, if we don't have those habits, if you're somebody who's inconsistent, if we don't sleep consistently, it's you're hitting, we're going to do is just dig the hole deeper that you think is going to make you fitter and, oh, by the way, you're going to be on an island by yourself doing a program that probably isn't going to work for you because you don't have the foundation laid anyway. So focus on the basics. Remember the theoretical development of an athlete as far as how we do that, and then and only then, once you start creeping up on the top 500 in quarterfinals, then maybe we talk about an individual program. But I can ask a coach, hey, how'd you do in the open last year? And based on that single response, I can extract out just about exactly where you're at as an athlete and what you probably need to do versus what you think needs to be done in order to increase your level as a competitor.
Agreed.
Final thoughts, Shreb.
Final thoughts. I really would implore everyone that listens to this podcast, if you are, and I think most of you are, kind of the lone wolf who works out in the middle of the day, to jump into class a bit more often. Put yourself in a situation, even if it doesn't line up beautifully with your programming, put yourself in that experience. Maybe, put yourself up against a workout where you're like, fuck, I'd be really unexcited if I had to do that alone in the gym by myself. Well, what better way than to jump into a class with other people who probably feel the same way as you do and can give you that push and kind of show you where you are relative to where the rest of your gym population is. And even if you're the best in your gym, you might use that competition to all right, let's see if I can get a round ahead of somebody. There's always ways to use the affiliate class for your own personal needs, whether that's chasing someone who's ahead of you or trying to be a bit more deliberate with your round pacing. But there are so many athletes who would stand to benefit from going to affiliate class to learn what it's like to really go there. And there isn't a better circumstance for putting yourself up against a uncomfortable stimuli than racing people in affiliate class. And now, before anyone gets upset, I know we said you can't win a training piece. You can't necessarily win the day's training, but you can learn a lot from that class, and that might give you perspective on hey, I actually thought I was great at muscle ups. Turns out I'm rather pedestrian in my affiliate class. I need to spend more time on the skill work, or I need to do more of this or more of that. So my PSA is just get out into affiliate class, do that more often, put yourself around other people. And if you're an affiliate owner, you should be taking your own class and making connections with people, because it's nice for them to see that you are also working on something in the same way they are working on something. That creates a connection between you and them.
If you are a Team Misfit gym, if you are an affiliate coach, if you're an affiliate owner, and you want more of this content from us, please let us know. You can let us know in the Team Misfit Discord. You can let us know in the Misfit Athletics Discord. I will not shy away from the idea that I believe that gym that's 10 feet away from me right now is the best gym in the world. And that's not just because it's Team Misfit programming. It's because it's Team Misfit programming being executed by the coaches that are doing it. So if you want the kind of content that can bridge that gap of how do I deliver the type of class that happens at Misfit Gym Portland and Wyndham, again, you know where to find us, Instagram, both of our Discord channels. If you guys want more of this content, it's a topic, again, that I think the whole group is pretty passionate about. And as you could probably tell, podcast that we thought was going to take 30 minutes took like 2 hours. Ted, Hunter, any final thoughts?
Go for it, Hunter.
Oh, Ted, I thought you had it there for a second. Yeah, maybe final thought here is that if you are a coach listening to this podcast, something that has been kind of sprinkled in and alluded to over the course of this entire podcast is the idea of having enough knowledge to benefit both the raw beginner, which is oftentimes far easier, and also trying to be able to provide benefit and value to the fittest athlete in your gym, the quarterfinalist, the athlete maybe who's fitter than you, maybe has competed at a high level than you. You do not need to be the fittest person in the gym, but you should be the most knowledgeable. You do need to have the breadth and depth of coaching knowledge to be able to assist the beginner in scaling their muscle ups, and also, do the verbal or visual stick figure explanation that Drew gave in his muscle ups to the high level affiliate athlete. Because at the end of the day, like, you have to be able to educate both of those types of athletes. And if not, you're not providing value to that athlete. And oftentimes for competitors, that's where the competitor comes in and says like, well, this coach can't help me. Their knowledge is capped before like the skills and drills that I need can come into play. So as a coach, you have to increase your knowledge to be able to help those athletes. Like we have a lot of stuff on our YouTube channel when we're thinking about, hey, here's a drill, here's a common fault, here's something like that, where we can educate high-level athletes on things like efficiency or learning to move properly. Those people are just as important as the other, 90% of athletes who come into your gym who want to learn how to do a muscle up or who want to improve their, functionality, that sort of thing. Obviously, there are far more of the latter than of the high-level competitors, but if you want to be able to call yourself a good coach, you have to be able to span that gap from high-level affiliate athlete all the way to I'm brand new, I haven't exercised in 20 years.
If you have made it this far, if you've made it 1 hour, 35 minutes, 47 seconds into this episode, clearly you care. And hopefully it comes across to you that these guys really care about what we're talking about here. So not only do these guys care, but they're writing the programming, they're delivering the programming, they're executing this programming on a daily basis in the gym. There may be products out there where people write the programming and then that's it. They wash their hands, they walk away. These guys are in the trenches doing this every day. So if you're somebody that listened this far and you care that much and you haven't signed up for Team Misfit programming yet, what the fuck are you doing? I am going to kick it back to Hunter, though. Just give us a brief glimpse of what somebody gets when they sign up for Team Misfit programming.
So when you sign up for the programming, you get 2 to 3 training pieces per day. So on a micro level, we make sure that, whether it's you have a strength and skill. Some days you have that and a conditioning piece. Some days you're just lifting and some days you're just conditioning. And then you also receive the competitor extra. So that's the training that you get for one day. You get 6 days per week. Every day includes warm-ups. Every day includes the stimulus, target scores, and scaling options for all of the movements and all of the workouts, so that you can make sure that, and the coach's notes indicate those are more the handwritten, like, hey, this is kind of what we're after. The more like just plain language, this is what we want from coach to coach. Make sure that you're implying this with your athletes. And then you get that program is delivered a month at a time. when you sign up. So you have the ability to make sure your coaches are looking ahead, seeing, okay, I'm going to circle this day. This is a day I'm going to have a really tight class plan in order to run this effectively. This day has this movement that we haven't talked about, or it's a new movement. I need to do a little bit of research on how to teach my athletes how to do that. So you get the program far enough in advance to do that. And then you also, I forgot what I was going to say. So 6 days. And then we have kind of the
get too much
expanding out a little bit into the more macro view. Like, we have a full year plan that is like gets iterated every year. So our programming through January is written. We plan ahead. We have that 7-week training phase, just like Misfit Athletics. You're for the competitors, where we have a test week, we have a retest week, we have specific things that we're focusing on 7 weeks at a time, and then we make sure that we rotate those every 7 week, and all the while making sure that the program is still keeping in line with kind of the traditional CrossFit methodology of constantly varied functional movements at high intensity, where we bias certain things every 7 weeks. We talked about the back squatting, muscle ups, and wall walks, but the other, 85% of the programming is classic CrossFit, where we get to mix in things. We get heavy implements, we get high skill implements. We have days where it's purely how hard do you want to work. Some days are monostructural, other days are, gymnastics focus. We make sure that the program is well-rounded while still being able to bias certain things so that athletes can see, progress over the shorter term. And then when we plug in the occasional classic CrossFit benchmark that they haven't done in 4 years, they can see progress that says, wow, not only did I improve my 5-rep max back squat over a 7-week phase in phase 3, but from 5 years ago to today, my fight gone bad score went up, and therefore I'm not only getting fitter on a 7-week span, but I'm fitter than I was 5 years ago. All of that costs you less than one membership per month. So why every gym isn't paid
It
for
ain't
it,
all
I don't know.
EMOMs and fiddle faddles. It's CrossFit. I think that's the biggest difference I would communicate to somebody else. Like,
Sure,
there isn't anything we're going to shy away from in coaching, and we really want to hold our Team Misfit coaches to a high standard and give them the tools they need to learn how to coach these things at a similar level to us. There's only one reason why we're all able to express our knowledge here, and that's because we're nerds in CrossFit. We spent the days on CrossFit.com watching those window media players, watching someone over in California teach an affiliate class on how to teach a push jerk, and then we thought about it and we figured out ways to refine it, and we found other resources. Like, that is time and effort expended on our end to try to educate ourselves so that we can educate you. And if you are someone who strives to be a good affiliate coach, like, you need to have that tool belt that can basically handle anything and everything. And if you don't know, you can say that, and then you got to get into the books, get into the videos, and learn for yourself.
If you go to teammisfit.com and sign up for our affiliate programming, you consume the free content that we create, and then you go into our private Discord channel for our Team Misfit affiliates and ask questions to fill in the gaps. I fucking guarantee you will deliver a better product than you currently are.
True.
Did we do it?
Yeah.
Job.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Misfit Podcast, and thank you to our show sponsors, sharpentheaxeco.com. Use your favorite athlete code, you save 10%. The athlete gets 10% to go to the competition that they don't know where it is or when it is. Boom, roasted. Properfuel.co, same concept with those discount codes, best supplements in the game. All right, see you next week.